Hello world, this is Shruti Pandey, and today I have with me somebody who doesn't need any introduction, is how I feel. But in case I still have to introduce him to you, he's Prantik Mazumdar. And if I start to tell the names of all the places, ventures, and things that he's involved in, with, half of the podcast time would go away. So I would keep it as a very, very one liner introduction where I'll say that this man wanted to be a cricketer, accidentally became a marketeer, and now he's a very, very successful entrepreneur. So thank you so much, Prantik, for giving me your time. And sorry to hear about the COVID situation, which is still going on in Singapore. And despite that, you're giving me your time. It means a lot to me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Shruti. It's a pleasure to be here, and congratulations for doing what you're doing. It's always great to be part of such podcast series because you're connecting people, you're connecting dots, you're sharing stories, and that's always interesting and inspiring. So thank you.
I just am trying to, give back to humans and community. I'm not doing anything great, but it's really, grateful for me that people like yourself give me your time. So it means a lot. And in case we can dive into the three questions that I've created for you, shall we start then?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
Awesome. Awesome. So my first question for you is, you have about 68 experiences on your LinkedIn profile, and tons of them are actually active. I mean, I've been in touch with you since last year on LinkedIn, and I know your birthday is around the corner. And it's been a little over than a year that I've been in touch with you on LinkedIn. So I know that these 68 experiences are real active ones. I want to understand, how easy or difficult is it for a common person, maybe somebody like me, to become an advisor or a venture investor, as you may call it?
No, sure. Very good question. Firstly, I must clarify, right? I mean, obviously on LinkedIn, uh, it obviously looks like a lot, but the truth of the matter is that I have one day job, which is at Dentsu. So I sold my company, Happy Marketer, to Dentsu. That's my active day job. The others are essentially, as you rightly said, they are either venture investments or advisory positions, which are. It really depends how it's structured, and I'll come to your question of how easy or difficult is it to sort of get into that. But so yeah, to clarify, it's not that I do 68 things a day. It's about there's one or two really high priority elements. The rest are part time, once a month, sometimes twice a month. Sometimes it's an investment where you make an investment and then you sort of wait, hold, monitor. So it's active versus passive, right? So that's one thing to bear in mind. Second is, I think, in terms of getting into both, I think both are possible. At the end of the day, one of the reasons there are so many things is because, again, I come from a school of thought that for me, personal and business life are not really separate. I am one. So whether I'm investing, whether I'm working, whether I'm consulting, whether I'm a dad, whether I'm at family, it's one, right?
Yeah.
I've never believed that there is this two separate personas, that once I'm at office or not, right? Especially work from home. Like I told you, I was just half an hour ago having lunch with family. Now I'm doing this, right? So there's a Harvard Business Review study around this called, I think the word work-life balance is fairly overused. And I don't know, because balance sort of gives you an image of this, in Hindi, what you call a tarazu, right? There's actually something that means you're balancing everything right now, which may not be true. So an author gave a very good analogy of probably our day being like a Jenga block, right? Sometimes you're working, sometimes you're playing, sometimes you're doing something else, right? So you're trying to sort of, you have fixed amount of time and you're trying to basically slot in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours, depending, into different buckets. So yeah, I think the Jenga analogy sort of suits me quite well. So coming to advisory and investment, I'll start with investment. Investment, broadly, there's public investments and there's private, right? So public investments, I think perhaps many of the audiences may be very familiar with, whether in India, US, Singapore, Hong Kong, you have public stock markets and you can buy equity, direct stocks, mutual funds, bonds. There are various instruments, and I think they are fairly accessible, hence it's called public. The venture investment is more so in the private investment category, which is where, yes, it takes time, effort to either find or access deals, or you've got to do something to ensure that the deals come to you, right? Because in anything in life, either you're pushing to get to it or you're attracting them, right? So I think in private, there are again three buckets, right? One is direct angel investments, where you're investing in a young startup company, whether it's a product or service, you're directly investing in that company. It's no different than investing in a stock, just that stock market, let's say a HDFC or Reliance or a Apple, they are public listed, very large, hence relatively much safer. A lot many more people are trading. So it's relatively liquid. You can buy, sell. In private, fundamentally, it's not liquid. Once you invest, it's very high risk. It could take a long time before you get your money back. But if you get your money back, there is a decent probability that you will make a lot more return, not in percentages, but in multiples, right? So that's angel. Or you could do a VC investment where it's like a mutual fund. In a mutual fund, you put 100 rupees, the fund manager allocates the 100 rupees into maybe 30 stocks. In VC, you put 100 rupees, the VC manager or the general partner would probably allocate that into 20 startups within the venture capital, right? So it's no different than a mutual fund, but the underlying asset is early stage, growth stage startups. The third is late stage pre-IPO, which is basically you are investing into large, fairly successful companies with good traction. So, but before they go IPO, before they go public. So in India, for example, had people invested in Zomato, in LIC, in Nazara Games, in Nika pre last year. So you would have invested pre-IPO, pre-going public. So if you look at this continuum, angel investing directly is probably the riskiest because you're putting individual bets in small early stage startups. Right. Venture capital is you're creating a basket of companies and you have a professional who's managing that. Pre-IPO is late stage, they've already grown, they're very large, they're maybe 1 or 2 years away from sort of going public. So that's the risk continuum. There's always a risk reward. So yeah, it's possible, but the question is, how do you get access to it? So nowadays, the good news is there are a lot of venture clubs, there are a lot of angel syndicates, there are a lot of groups of friends who come together and collectively pool money and invest. So I think one has to reach out to those clubs. The other is, of course, which relates to the advisory position as well, is how do you build a personal brand so that hopefully companies know what are your skill sets and interests and they can reach out to you. And of course, that's a desirable position as well, because if you have 10, 20 companies sort of reaching out to you, you perhaps maybe in a better position to sort of pick and choose which are right for you, depending on your interest, your stage of life. So, and I think a lot of that depends on building and crystallizing and building and amplifying your personal brand. And that could be through blogs, LinkedIn, public speaking, whatever that you do. But the short answer thereafter in summary is that it's possible for anyone to get into angel investing, VC investing, pre-IPO deals, as well as I think advisory, very much possible, because there you're not giving money, you're giving time, right? And if you're starting new, I would say just in your friend circle, if anyone is starting, and again, it doesn't have to be this tech company or some fintech, ed tech. It could just be a salon down the road. It could be a food court, right? Everyone could do with some help. So if you can help the salon or the beauty parlor next door saying, hey, you know what? Here are 2, 3 ideas that you can try to increase your business or improve your brand. That's an advice. Now, the question is, are people willing to take your advice? Are people going to take your advice seriously? Are they willing to pay you for your advice, right? You can give advice. Giving and taking advice is free. The question is it valued, right? And that requires authenticity, credibility. You've got to prove. So I would say, you've got to build your case. So start with what you know or who you know. Give advice, help them implement it, prove your case. Start small, prove your case. And then if it works, you feel confident, the word spreads, give it time. People will reach out to you.
Wow. I don't remember ever somebody answering a question, a loaded question like this without going all Greek and Latin, This was so understandable and this was so humane. Thank you so much. This is like a master class in understanding how to become an advisor or, getting into the VC kind of thing. And also understanding that it's not like I have to be somebody like a great, like somebody coming from a Herculean cloud or something, but anybody can do this. It's about putting efforts, putting time, and understanding how you're going to put your money and expertise. Thank you so much. Such a great answer. Such a great answer. I'm literally mind blown right now. And I totally believe in the concept of there is no separate entity, like, a work and a life, because everything is one. So I definitely believe on the thought that you rightly mentioned at the start. And moving on to my second question that I have for you, which is, how do you manage your time and efforts while being a part at multiple places, be it active, passive, whatever different roles that you own? And I apologize that in case earlier I was not pretty on the spot there, but be it the variety of roles that you have, including a day job, how do you manage all these different responsibilities at the same time? I'm just talking about, maybe if you want to keep your home aside, you can do that. I don't want to get into your personal space, but whatever you feel comfortable in answering this.
No, the home, the personal life, me time, all of that is important. See, I think firstly to acknowledge that all of us are blessed with the same amount of time, right? Whether it's Ambani, whether it's you, me, Prime Minister, the common factor is 24 hours, right? So I think if you acknowledge that, second thing is it boils down to your objective and your priorities, and it's hard. It's a hard problem because there will always be 1,000 things. I've never met a person who says I'm not busy. Everyone's busy. I've never met anyone who says, yeah, I have nothing to do. I'm bored. I'm idle. The question is, what are you busy with? And, why are you busy with that, right? So someone's busy watching Netflix, that's fine. If the objective is entertainment, someone's meeting friends, that's fine. So I think it is about making an active versus passive choice. Someone told me this, that it's like brand building as well, right? If you don't make an effort just by sheer existence as an individual, as a company, by sheer existence, you'll build a brand. But the question is it the brand that you want to build? Is this how you want to be perceived? That's an active choice. So same way, you can just laze away through life. You can just live your life, and nothing wrong. And I'm saying this with utmost humility. There's nothing wrong in just chilling out if that's your objective, right? As long as it is what you want, right? So I think it boils down to to your question of how do you manage. I think every 2 to 3 years, broadly, if you can crystallize 2 or 3 key objectives of your life, whether it's money, it's family, it's health, it's profession, career, social service. There's a hexagon sort of slide chart many of you would see. So just try and put that into that hexagon of your life as to what are the 5 or 6 things important to you, right? And there are some very interesting books around it. I think Zuckerberg's sister wrote a book basically saying at one time you can only optimize 3 variables. It could be sleep, health, friend, work, and something else, right? So just pick 3 out of the 5 or 6 that matter to you. Otherwise you can't be getting everything at the same time every year. You can get everything, but over a long, stretch your horizon. Everyone's here, whoever's listening, maybe in their 20s, 30s, you probably have 50 to 80 years of life. So it's a long way to live. Every 2 to 3 years, evaluate what do you want to optimize for. And once you do that, you're sort of in your mind, that, what, the next 2 3 years, I want to spend, at least 30% of my time with my family. Or some people tell me that their kids are going to go to college. So I want to, spend more time with my family because after this, my child will go to college. So you're putting 30% of your time. The next is you're saying, what, I want to really focus on developing this particular skill. Let's say golf. So you want to probably put, some amount of time in that. And then, so it's once you have a broad idea that, what, these are 3-4 things important to me, automatically what you should tell you. I think as humans, we are very good at adding things to our list, a to-do list. But what we are very bad is we are very bad at removing. And this includes me as well. We are very bad at removing items. What will I not do? Right? So when you make a priority, what will you do? But what will you also actively not do? Which means you could say, next 2 years, no holidays for me. That's an active choice. Or next 2 months, maybe, I don't want to focus that much on work. I'll just cruise along. I'll just focus on family and health. So just make that broad over a 2 year, 3 year period, make a broad goal, write it down. And then when it comes to, I've really benefited from scheduling things. So to me, the calendar app is very critical. And I try and, I'm generally a volume person. So I try and sort of pack my 8-10 hours with as many things as I can do. And there are a few suggestions or tips are, by default, I notice every meeting invite is 1 hour. The question is why? Why can't it be 10 minutes? Or why can't it be 3 hours, right? So I think you got to question certain default assumptions. So for me, a lot of meetings are actually 15, 20 minutes. We get to the chase, what is the objective? What do you do? What should I do? What's the plan? Okay, thanks. Let's move on. But some meetings, you want to have a longer conversation without agenda, right? That could be 3 hours, right? Or you just don't want a time. So I think what I try and do is on my calendar, I try and block time, right? Even sometimes for personal things like running or lunch. Because what I've realized is if it's on the calendar, it gets done. It's conscious, it's visible. That means even people who have access to my calendar know that, oh, you know what, this is lunchtime and nope, we're not meeting or we're not doing a call, unless obviously it's very urgent, or this is running time, period. So if you're prioritizing, put it on the calendar.
And you keep it not as private. Everybody can see what you're doing in this time.
My calendar is public. So even if it's, let's say, some private time or a private dinner or whatever, I can put it as private dinner without mentioning who I'm meeting, but color code it and, just put it out there. So people start respecting that boundary in most often than not, right? But to me, more than the, people respecting, it's me respecting my time or me planning, right? And the other thing there, which probably many of you would have heard also, is maker time, manager time. So this is a theory from Paul Graham, who basically says, it's best to block large chunks of time. So let's say Tuesday morning is maker time, which is when you're thinking, you're reading, you're making something. Because most of the calendars otherwise get filled in by Zoom meetings and calls and meetings. And that is important. But ultimately, what are meetings? Meetings are a tool to coordinate, to communicate. But sometimes if we don't have allocated time to follow through, to think, like I encourage my team at Dentsu, at Happy Marketer, that guys, one of the biggest challenges is we don't block time to read and think. Because in our head, work done equal to PowerPoint, Excel sheet. Not really. I think the biggest difference is to just sometimes sit and think, right? Or think and read, because reading can stimulate your brain and you can think. So I think thinking is a huge gap and people feel uncomfortable. How can I put thinking? What will people think, right? But that's in a knowledge economy, that's your biggest value add. What's in between those ears and your ideas, right? Word, Excel sheet, PowerPoint, yes, important. But guess what? In 10 years, all of that can be easily automated. But your creative thinking is much harder, right? So again, put things on the calendar, question default time frames. Everything doesn't have to be 1 hour. It can be 30 minutes, 15 minutes, and be very clear. If it's a pure transactional meeting, clear, get it done quickly, move on, keep follow through time. And also, as much as possible, block time for thinking, reading, just to let your mind ease out. Because, the best minds work when there is, you give the mind the time. People say, oh, I got this wonderful idea in the shower. Why is that? Because you're just switching off. You're letting your mind cool. There's no agenda, right? But to me, deliberately put that in your calendar. You need thinking time.
I'll tell you something on that. I used to feel very shy to even say that I get the best ideas in the shower, because I would think what people would think, I mean, to the fact that I remember in my BTech engineering days, we were given a project for communication skills that we're supposed to create an ad. And I love these kind of creative things, right? And till the D-Day, we had done nothing. We were supposed to record an entire thing. We were a gang of about 5-6 girls, and we had thought about an idea of selling a soap. And on the D-Day, I just reached to my team and I'm like, no, we are not doing soap. We are doing something else. And the entire idea, I got it in shower. And when my friends asked, how did you think about this? I was feeling so hesitant to say that I got this idea in the shower. But yeah, you're damn right. And I think I had a third question for you, which was, what is your mantra on leading a peaceful, balanced life? But given the advices and the nitty-gritties in your second answer, I think you kind of touch base all those points. And I feel like improvising on the fly, where I feel like asking you this third question of mine, which is from cricketer to accidental marketeer. Somehow we can understand or correlate, because we all come from Indian backgrounds where we wanted to be something and we became something else. How did you become an entrepreneur? How did that happen for you?
Yeah, that's also a continuation of that accident. So, it's like, I think when you sort of keep things open and you're flexible and you're open to new ideas, new thoughts, meeting new people, again, you just don't know. You end up surprising yourself. You just don't know who you will meet, right? And that's, I think, probably the more exciting part of my life is I just, love connecting with people. So today, let's say we connected last year, and it led to this podcast, right? So it's the same way. The startup journey happened because my very good friend from university, who's the original founder of Happy Marketer, he pulled me in. He saw me. We've been friends from 2001, day one in college from NUS. He's the one who decided that he will not work for anyone else and he'll start up, which he did. And he saw me doing this for another company, and he said, "Look, that's great, but why don't we do something together?" So he sort of convinced me, cajoled me into this, and we sort of said, "Okay, cool, let's come together, restructure things." And I joined him, and again, that's how it happened. Because my career started with the Singapore government, I worked for two small businesses, and then this happened. So I think, yeah, and again, right, and if I extend that line, I don't know how many more accidents out there, remain to be happened, and hopefully good accidents. And I think it's about that, right? I mean, you just want to be, if it, again, for some people it doesn't make sense, which is absolutely fine. But if it excites you to sort of chase new ideas, just new exciting horizons, then the option is to just stay open, and just have the faith, and keep doing what you're good at, and one fine day it'll somehow connect. That's the hope and belief.
I think the best accident happened, not like an accident, but a stroke of luck that happened with you in 2001 is to get that friend in the first place. Like it's so hard to find good friends who really are friends. So that's phenomenal. And I'm not sure if someday you're going to write a book and call it something with respect to all the accidents. But what a happy journey. And I even love the name, Happy Marketeer. Like you always have this happy feeling somewhere or the other put in the names. It's so good to see that. And you yourself are such a jolly person, Prantik. It was such a fantastic encounter to meet you and to understand all these things about life. And the biggest lesson that I take from this podcast and talking to you is that things are really simple. We just need to think about things we want to think. And we have just overcomplicated stuff which can be automated. We need to
Yeah.
come down to basics and start making things done. This couldn't be any great and any better. Do you have any parting thoughts before we wrap this call up?
No, I think firstly, like once again, thank you for doing this, because you never know, right? Like a podcast or a video sparks an idea somewhere, and someone starts doing something. And so, I think it's important that we pay it forward. I think it's important that I think the last two things I would say is it's important for all of us to acknowledge and be happy with what we have. It's obviously harder, said than done, because the moment you do that, I think you start getting comfortable, where you are. And it's also important then to sort of figure out, hey, what is it that I can do to pay it forward? And it's happened with me, right? So many people have paid it forward to me, helped me, connected me with a client, connected me with an investor. And I think if everyone does that, some with commercial interest, some without, I just think we're doing the best of the time that we have here. So I would just say, acknowledge and assess all the good that you have, all the resources that you have, and just see, can you pay it forward, and can you just, help another person or another group? And if you can, I just think we sort of start, we're in control of ourselves, of our lives, and we sort of hopefully trigger a nice little accidental change for many people.
I just want to put a disclaimer here because, help these days is perceived as either a free thing or either a transactional barter thing, where you're like, okay, if I'm helping, I want this in return. So I'm pretty sure when you say help, it's in the purest form of help, right? If I understand you correct. So I just want people
Yeah,
to,
I mean,
you're talking
and
about really help.
correct. And I must clarify and classify help as in, genuinely help without, unconditional help, without. But there are some where it's conditional, where it's professional. And I'll tell you, both kinds matter, right? And it depends on the nature of the help. The professional one is important because certain times when it's a professional thing, if I am helping you, for example, or you're helping me professionally, we'll respect the time. If there's a transaction, there is an incentive, right? At the end of the day, we all have limited time. We want to we probably, I always believe that we work for 3 Fs. We either work for fame, fortune, or fun, right? And the incentive could be for any of those three, right? So, if you're looking for fame, if I can help you, that's great. If you're looking for money, can I help you there? Or if it's just, it's a fun environment. So I think to figure out what is it that the other side needs. It's not about what you can give, but it's also important to clarify the other side. It's like a customer, right? You would always want to know, what does the customer really want. Same way, if I am advising or helping someone, it could be transactional, professional, but I need to know what is it that the other side wants. Or it can be just genuine help, unconditional, without any expectation to pay it forward. Either way, but it depends on the situation. But I think the point is, if you keep doing that, we realize over time that we're also helping ourselves in the process.
Yes.
If I go back to that salon example, if I help a salon for free, do something for them, she does well, you know what? I'll feel good. I'll feel confident that, wow, this is working. Maybe now I can go and make this into a professional advisory.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't tell you how much I have learned from this chat with you, this conversation with you, and how much this means to me. And I hope all the listeners would also have used takeaways from this conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much once again, Prantik, for giving me your time. It was lovely to have you on the podcast.
Pleasure, Shruti. Thank you so much for doing it and having me. Thank you, and wish you all the best for all your future episodes.
Thank you so much.